Hi, this is David Humphreys again, looking at the Investment Property Analyser, and this is the second tutorial of a series of tutorials on how to operate, how to use this analyzer. Just to repeat a warning, for want of a better word, from the first tutorial. This tutorial is unscripted, it's delivered live. There's going to be ums and ahs and buts in it and some pauses, as there were in the first tutorial. I apologize in advance for these, but this is as one would deliver a live lecture. So we've wrapped up the looking at the deal analyzer on this page, and if we now cursor across to the next page or next part of this page, we come to the long-term investment projections, and here we're repeating the property address and the brief description of the property, and we have the projections set at 5, 10 and 15 years. In each case the projections are for the 5-year period, so this is from year 1 to 5, this is from year 5 to 10, and this is from year 10 to 15. So it's the average 5-year annual increases that we're putting in here. So we put a percentage in this case 4% for the first period, and rent's going up by 6. In the second period though, I've changed the percentages to 6% for values and 5% for rents, which I've left as a constant for the third period. So as I say, these are 3 5-year periods as against compounding over, say, a 10-year period. We then come in to the rent-related variables, which include VAT, void set at 2.5%, letting and management 12%, annual repairs and maintenance 10%, and then we've got the annual insurance. Now I've increased the annual insurance for this period. If we go back to the last, we had the annual insurance set at £225. I've increased it to average £250 over the first 5-year period, £275 over the second 5-year period, and £300 over the third 5-year period. We then come to projected values, and what you're able to do here is either accept the calculated value based on the 4% increase per year, and remember this is compounding, or you can enter your own value in this cell here. Remember, all light blue cells are data input. You can input the data. So if when you reach the 5-year point, if the value is not close on £213,000 but was to be £250,000, you could enter a 250 into here, or likewise if it was only 200, you could put 200 into this cell. I'll just show you what happens on the changes. This is the figure that will change principally. So if I put £250,000 in here, this is figures at 285 effectively, £285,000. This will increase to 334,000. Likewise, if I reduce this to £200,000, this will reduce below the original figure to 267 or 268,000. So this allows you to override the projected value when you reach the date in question. Okay, I'll just clear the contents of that out. So you've got the option of accepting the projected value that you started off with, or overwriting it for the next 15 years. And I suggest you do that rather than go back and either increase or decrease this projected value. You really want to try and keep the history of the situation. So if you thought 4% was going to be the increase per year, and it only worked out at 3, don't go back and change the 4, change the value to the 3% figure. Likewise, if you undershot it, if you said 4 but it's gone up by 5, increase this to the true value. We then come down with the remortgage. Obviously, the higher or lower the actual value, the greater or lesser the amount of mortgage, and this reads the actual value if there is an actual value. As there's no actual value in this example now, it reads the £213,000 here. But if I put an actual value in there, that's the value that takes priority. Got the interest, monthly finance payments. This is based on the whole mortgage, not just the further advanced sector, and the equity in the property. And this is the amount of cash that is potentially released. We then come down to the projected rental values. Cash left in the property. We're now in a position on the opening page where we've got cash out of the property completely, because we've got infinite returns, as you can see down here. So there's no cash left in the property. We've got a projected rental income, projected weekly rental income of 535 in this case. Now, once again, as with the projected value, you can put in your actual weekly rental, and that's the one that takes priority if you put any data into that cell. So you could override the calculated figure on a 6% basis. So if you remember, in the first sheet, we started off, I'll just go back to it, we started off with a weekly rental of £400. This has now increased to £535 because each year we've assumed an increase in the rent of 6%. If we're wrong, you make the adjustment back through the light blue cell. We then come down through the deductions from the monthly rents, repairs and maintenance, insurance, leaving us with a total of rent-related costs, giving us a net monthly rental income and an annualized rental income and positive monthly cash flow. We also have the capital gains since purchase, and this is based on the projected or actual value, and takes off the original purchase price to arrive at the capital gains since purchase. We've got the yield here, which is the rent as a percentage of value, and we've got, in this case, an infinite return because we've drawn out all the cash that we had originally invested in the property. Because if you remember, we carried out about £13,000 worth of work on this property. We bought it 20% below market value, or discounted by 20%. So having bought it at 20% less and done the work, we increased the value to the point that we were able to remortgage and pull all our cash out. And as it's very true, the truism says, the profit lies in the buy price, not the sell price. And that 20% reduction below market value has let us reach a point where we can pull all our cash out. And this is more fully explained in the tutorial Renovating for Profits that we do inside Property Investor Mastermind. So the 10-year is simply a repeat of the 5-year position, and likewise the 15-year, other than you can obviously change the variables, the light blue variables that are in these panels. We then have the projected cash out over the 15-year period. It's projected that you could withdraw just over £150,000, assuming that these projections are correct. And likewise, at the end of the 15-year period, it's assumed that the capital growth, not the value of the property, but the capital growth will be £263,000. The value of the property at the end of 15 years is this figure here, £381,000. If you remember, we started off with a purchase price of, as I recollect, 118,000. Yes, £118,000. So it's grown from £118,000 to £381,000 here, giving a capital growth of £263,000. So this is the panel under the deal analyzer, which gives you the long-term investment projections, and quite interesting really. Anyway, I'm now going to move on to the area analysis, and here is the Property Investment Analyser analysis of local house prices and property valuer. Once again, we repeat the address and the date. Now, valuing property is a dark art. It's very, very difficult to work out truly what a value is, and this is our best shot at it, as you might say. We've introduced a number of factors which you may or may not be familiar with. First of all, we looked at the asking prices in the immediate area, and by an immediate area we're talking about a half-mile radius around a centre point. If you get it down tighter than that, a quarter mile, even better. Rightmove works in quarter mile, half mile, mile radius around a centre point. And of course, you can also draw your own locations and neighbourhoods, which is all covered in the location due diligence tutorials, compiling that report. Now, what we're doing here is that we're trying to value on the basis of square meterage, which is quite common in commercial premises, but is less common in residential, though it's becoming increasingly quoted. It's now quite common for new build to be priced or valued on the square meterage. It's less the case with second-hand properties. In any event, let me show you how this works. You've got up to 10 potential asking prices. First, second, third property I've done. Postcodes are very important for comparative purposes, and also if somebody wants to look at the report, they can put the postcode into Rightmove or Mouseprice or any of the other portal sites and quickly come up with an answer. Number of bedrooms is important, and the square meterage. Now, in most cases, the square meterage is not quoted, or often it's not quoted, in the for sale particulars, and I'll show you how we resolve that problem on the next page. But for the moment, you enter the square meterage here if it is quoted, and this is the overall internal square meterage, not the land that the property is sitting on. That information comes here, though it's seldom quoted in the for sale particulars. But this is the square meterage of the internal area. Okay. You then put in the value of the property, or the property, the asking price of the property, I should say, and then it automatically works out a value per square meter. Okay. So this is the value divided by the square meters, gives us in this example £1,125 per square meter, and our source is Rightmove. RM is for Rightmove, and we've got the useful websites down here with Rightmove, Mouseprice, which I'll come to in a minute, and Zoopla, RM, MP, and ZP. Okay, so this is how we get our asking prices, and by going on to Rightmove, you're able to do this. Now, what I suggest that you do is use the map facility in Rightmove. Let me show you how I do this. Now, I've got Rightmove, I've entered for sale, and I've put the location in, which is an area in the valleys of Wales, the Rhondda Valley, which I'm familiar with. I've set the radius at half a mile, and looking for houses with 3 bedrooms. Okay, and I've looked for properties on a map rather than a list of properties on a map. I'll just set this down to a quarter mile to see if that makes any difference. Update the results. Okay, so this is a quarter mile radius of this particular postcode, and we assume that this postcode is the postcode of the property which I'm looking at, I'm thinking about buying. Alright, now we're then able to go and look at on the map, have a walk round. There's a property I would think probably is in need of work. Here's again in need of work at these prices, £25,000. There's a good property, asking price 89. That gives us quite a good yardstick to work to of a property that is probably fixed up. So if we click on this picture, we then get the full details. It looks nice. Get the full details of this property, and then we can scroll down and pick up dimensions. Now here we are. Now, not very helpful. They are in feet and inches, okay, not in meters, and ideally we want them in meters. I'll show you how we convert this later in this tutorial. Okay, but there's a reasonable property, 89,950. It's obviously in good order. We can see from the pictures that the property is in good order and well kept and in first class order. So this gives us an indication of the asking prices for a 3-bedroom end of terraced house in a place called Treherbert. What is achievable? And this property will probably sell for, I don't know, 85 plus. So that's how we get the asking price for a property. So now I'm going to move on to sold prices and show you what I do there. And once again, to start off with, it's back to back to Rightmove. So I've put the postcode in again. I've gone to house prices, by the way, find sold prices over here. I put the postcode in, and I'm looking for terraced houses. Last 2 years is the shortest period. And there's a house here which is of interest in Kenry Street. It's number 12. £80,000, number 12 Kenry Street, and that's all the information I get off Rightmove. That I can't get into the details. It's a freehold terraced house at 80,000, and remember number 12. Okay, Kenry Street. Now for sold prices and meterages, I go to mouse price. I'm already logged in, and I'm looking for the local area guide to find that street, Kenry Street, CF42 5AR. Okay, search, and I'm looking for a street index which is here. You come into here. By the way, you need to register to get this information, but registration is free. So street index, and then I want K for Kenry Street. Here we are, Kenry Street, and I'm looking for number 12. So if I scroll down, I find 12 down here, click open to open it, and it tells me that the internal area of Kenry Street is 133 square meters, and that the last time this property sold was in 2010 for £80,000. So that gives me a sold comp, although it's a bit old, at nearly 18 months ago. But this is how I get sold comps, and therefore a combination of the 133 square meters, which is approximate. It is approximate, but they're reasonably accurate, or in our experience, they're reasonably accurate. At £80,000, gives me a comp to work off on certainly on a square meterage position anyway. Okay, so I'll take this away. I'll take this screen away and come back to the analyzer, the property investment analyzer, and into here you put the first property you're using for sold prices, the postcode, the number of bedrooms, the square meterage which we take from mouse price, the land if it's available as well, the sold value, what it's sold for, and then it auto-calcs the square meterage, and the source of this information is mouse price. Now, having done that, if you want to reach your square meterage of anywhere street, you can use this. Okay, and here we've got 5 floors, lower ground and 4 ground and 3 above. You put in a square meterage sorry, you put in the width, you put in the depth, and it auto-calcs the square meters, and then it adds them all up, okay, and gives you the square meterage. Now, if you don't have the square meters or the individual floor areas, you can, because as you can see, this is blue, and where an AutoCalc cell is also blue, you can overwrite the coding behind it. So you can put 70 in yourself, or 75, or whatever, and it overwrites the coding. When you've done that, by the way, then this doesn't work anymore effectively. Now, you can also then adjust or personalize the property value. In this case, we've got a 68,000 value, which is 70 square meters times this average square meter value of £981. Okay, gives us the 68. Now, you might be doing improvements, or you might have bought a property which has these things in it, and we've looked at a number of websites, and this gives some indication of how values increase depending on whether these facilities are available. So if you've got a conservatory, just tick it. If you're going to install central heating, then tick this. And this gives you an indication of how values increase to the point where you get this 81,000 value up. Okay? And if you're comfortable with that value, then you take this value and you copy it and paste it back into the deal analyzer. I'll show you where you put it. So you go back into the deal analyzer and you post the value, pull this across, you post this into this market value here. And having posted it into that market value, then everything is fired off. So you update the market value from the area analysis. All right. Now, one final thing before we end this tutorial is the size converter. Very simple. Often agents' particulars are quoted in feet and inches. So rather than grabbing for a calculator, here's what you do. You simply enter the feet, the width and the depth in feet, using it decimalized. So 75 is effectively 10 foot 9 inches. That's 9 foot 9 inches. That's 11 foot 6. So decimalize it. It works out the square meters, takes it across, and gives you the total square meters of. And this is more useful when looking at asking prices. If you want to convert into square meters to see what's happening, this is inside the Property Investment Analyzer to enable you to do it, as I say, without grabbing for a calculator. Okay, that brings me to the end of the second part of the tutorials on the Property Investment Calculator. And the next one, which is number 3, looks at the refurbishment calculator, which is really the heart of this analyzer. So this is David Humphreys, and look forward to seeing you in part 3, when we will go into the refurbishment calculator. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you.